Welcome to another episode of CPAC Now, America Uncanceled. I'm, of course, here with Mercedes, and boy, we've been on a tear with the schedule, and we have a great show for you today. You can see we're joined by a very special guest.
Yes, John Cole. He's our lead counsel for Donald Trump's class action suit. American Conservative Union is part of that lawsuit as well, and we want to get an update, John. What's going on?
Well, we filed an amended complaint yesterday, which is a technicality, but we wanted to add the Florida statute, which is very specific about what tech's doing, the viewpoint discrimination against mainly conservatives now. And as I've always said, 3 years from now, it'll be against liberals. This is why it's such an important issue.
But this is a nationwide case, right?
Yes.
But the Florida statute helps the cause?
Yes, it helps the cause a lot. Plus, we've put in First Amendment into the complaint big time. And that's the major thing of the case. The case is basically, Congress or the government can't delegate what they can't do themselves. And that's what they've done here, not only with Section 230, which everybody I think is familiar with, it gives them immunity, but also they were browbeaten over the almost 18 months by Democratic congressmen, senators. If you don't start cleaning up the misinformation, we're going to do X, Y, and Z to you. We might take your immunity away. The Supreme Court says you can't do that. You can't browbeat private companies into doing what you can't do. And again, you also can't collude with them, let's say, as has happened with the virus stuff, Fauci, all of that kind of stuff. What the press secretary said the other day about how they're teamed up with Facebook, you really can't do that. And I'm quoting Supreme Court law. Supreme Court over the years says you just can't do it.
So, John, were you shocked when Jen Psaki made those remarks? Was it something turned on? You're like, wait a second here. This is exactly the problem of big tech possibly colluding with the government, making the big tech almost a government actor. Is that correct?
Yeah, well, I opened the champagne.
It's good.
I mean, we cheer.
We wish we could have been there with the champagne. That would have been fun.
Thank you. That's what my,
But why is that such a problem? Why is it a problem that Jen Psaki made that remark? And I remember clearly we were watching it. We're basically saying, yes, we're coordinating.
And I had
with
the same
Facebook.
reaction as John.
What, you had the champagne without me?
No, I didn't have champagne, but I said they just made our argument for us.
Right, exactly. Were you shocked?
Not really. I mean, I don't think they get it. I don't think they get that, the administration, anybody can say anything they want, but they can't censor other people. There are other viewpoints out there. Lots of people are against the vaccines. Most people are for the vaccines, all that kind of stuff. It's fine to talk about it, but you can't say, Matt, you can't talk about it.
Okay, so let's go through this a little bit. So from a constitutional law perspective, a company, if they say they're a private company, they can say, you can't if you're a protected class, but let's just go to speech. I can say, I don't like when John Cole says these things, so I'm going to make the argument that I don't want John Cole saying those things on my platform. But what's happening in this case is the government and the Supreme Court and Congress, they're not passing legislation to define what proper speech is. They're basically pointing to the private companies and saying, you should censor them.
Right.
Which means that they're no longer they can't make the argument they're a private company.
Exactly.
They're an agent.
And once they get it, once you pass that hurdle, then all the First Amendment laws and constitutional protections apply.
But wait a second, John. But you're reading from many of these legal scholars and even the media saying this case is going to go nowhere. Do you think you're front and center in this case, along with President Donald Trump and I would say thousands of people out there, as well as it is a class action lawsuit. Is that the case? Is the case really going to go nowhere?
No, I mean, they said that within the first 6 hours after we announced it. And they must be much smarter than me because it took me months to get around to that and, to do all the research and everything. But they're coming around where they're seeing the pleadings, they're seeing, what the law is, and we have a darn decent chance of winning this thing. And it will, I'm quite confident it will go to the Supreme Court because it's such an.
And that's the proper venue. It's the Supreme Court, the nation's highest court, that have put these definitions around restrictions on our First Amendment rights.
Yes, and we have to get the law to the 21st century. It's not there yet, and I don't know how this thing ends. I don't know if it's a big negotiation. I don't know if what the court will do, but I know what's happening now is wrong. I think the courts will agree with that.
The question of Section 230 and all these questions on giving companies immunity, in this case these social media companies, immunity from being sued, Pam Bondi brought this up, and I want to get your reaction, that part of that was done because they can't be responsible, right, for the millions of people who are on their platform, everything that might be said. But what they're doing now is using this immunity and really turning it on its head to prevent people with very sane points of view, like, I like Donald Trump, or I don't think you should be able to vote illegally, or I think that wearing masks is probably not as foolproof as some people say they are. Like, these types of things of which we're having legitimate debates in society, they're blocking that conversation.
Yeah, what's really weird is that when 230 was passed, you didn't have these companies. They did not exist. I think Mark was in middle school or something like that.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Mark Zuckerberg.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes.
Oh, we're like that. No, never met him. But, and it was originally to stop child porn. That's what it was about.
Yeah.
So you gave them this immunity, but they put
So that when they blocked the pornographers,
Yeah.
they couldn't get sued by the pornographers.
Correct.
Or when they blocked those exploiting children sexually or any other way, they couldn't then get sued by some entity
Right.
for doing that blocking, because the blocking was being done because it's the right thing to do morally, but also they were being compliant with all these statutes that protect our children.
Yes. And then it morphed into the situation today, which is really,
Blanket immunity for everything, kind of.
yeah, but it's supposed to be done in good faith. And I think we can handle that quite easily. It wasn't good faith. It's not good faith today. And it's just obnoxious.
So, John, can you help me understand something? You have Twitter and these other outlets that are allowing, the Iranian dictator, allowing for Miguel Diaz-Canel, who is the Cuban president. I would call him a dictator as well. They're able, you've got Putin. They're able to access every single media platform,
Including
to
social
push
media.
communist propaganda left and right. And yet, Twitter and Facebook and all these other platforms have banned President Donald Trump. What is the deal?
The deal is it's one side. It's one-sided. It has been. It's been one-sided for a couple of years. The hatred of Donald Trump trumps everything. They let these dictators on. They let the Iranians say death to Israel, death to America, all these things that conservatives can't say. So it's very one-sided. It's viewpoint discrimination. And as I've said a lot, it's conservatives today, liberals tomorrow, who knows? They shouldn't have this power.
John, you yourself, when people say, "Oh, it's a fake lawsuit," they try to play into the fact that post the election, the various Trump lawyers had a bad record out there in court. We can go into why or why not, but so they're trying to make it sound like this is just another publicity stunt. But I think it's important for people to understand, like, you're not somebody who spent your whole life being like a registered Republican, always working for Republicans. You've come to this position over the course of a very successful career as a trial lawyer, suing all types of people in society very successfully. And your politics,
Well, the bad people in society.
well,
now.
but it's politics.
Also good ones.
But your politics have shifted in the process when you've watched what's happened to America.
Right.
That Democratic Party is not the same party it was.
No, I'm a friend of the Clintons, and I helped Hillary out.
Keep watching, okay? Just because he's a friend of
No,
the
it ends
Clintons.
good.
Just keep watching, okay? Don't leave us.
There's a good ending.
Oh boy, John.
No, and I'm buddies with Martin O'Malley, but I have a lot of friends on both sides. But what got me over the last 4 or 5 years, the woke stuff just makes me crazy. And, just the lack of freedom of speech, whether it's woke cancel or conservative cancel, that's what got me here, where I am now.
And I think recently we've seen Twitter suspend some of these audit war rooms accounts from Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, and other states. I mean, it really does show that these big tech companies
They're
are
the censors.
trying to control the messaging. Right. So they can be pushing out all sorts of propaganda, but when it's something that just doesn't fit their narrative, they serve as the editors-in-chief.
Yeah, I mean, the stuff about the voting, I don't know where it ends up, but I think it should be investigated. It may turn out that it wasn't enough to turn the election. I don't know. But I think that Americans need to have confidence in the voting and investigate it, then you make your decision.
So we talk about your really great career, successful career, and leave it to Donald Trump to pick a lawyer who surprises people, right, a little bit, and pick a tactic that Republicans would always reject. Trial lawyers going to court, that's just not what Republicans do. It's not what conservatives do. My mind has been shifting on this topic for the last couple of years, even before this lawsuit. I was open to the lawsuit, and CPAC is on the lawsuit after you and I talked. But I feel like we have to come up with new tactics and new ways to push back on wokeness and the socialism. You know, if we had the old Democratic Party, it's been one thing, but we have this new party that's embraced all this extremism. And if we don't do things like do some of the things they do by doing a class action lawsuit, to try to stop these companies dead in their tracks and have court orders that say you simply can't do it, I don't know how we're going to save the country.
Well, we have to be on offense. You've got to go, and it has been. And trial lawyers are historically Democrats, about 98%. That's probably because the Republicans try to take the fees away.
That's right. That's right.
Isn't it tort reform? Is that part of it?
That's right.
We forgot about all those tort reform fights.
Right. But no, you've got to attack. You've got to go after the woke stuff. You've got to go after all that kind of stuff by attacking it, not white papers and things like that. You got to go in.
So then what happens now if I'm, sitting in middle America, the heartland of America, and I feel like I've been
best part of
censored.
America, you mean.
I'm from South Florida, so I might be a little biased. But yes, I do love my people in Kansas as well. But but let me ask you, John. So if I'm an average American, I wrote something up, my account got suspended. What do I do? How do I get involved in this lawsuit?
You go to America First Policy Institute, their website, and that'll show you how to get involved. We have, I think now over 60,000 people have signed on or contacted us.
Yeah, that's amazing, and that just shows you the outpouring. And I know that as we were walking around CPAC, and you were with us at CPAC at our dinner, that people were just walking up to me and telling me their own stories of censorship and kind of like funny business that's happened on these sites. The other thing I think that we have to just kind of hit dead on is, Facebook spent hundreds of thousands of dollars. I guess I should say this is one of the Zuckerberg Foundation spent hundreds of thousands of dollars in the election. You see the vast amounts of money these companies have, and it's not a 50-50 split between Republicans and Democrats. They're really all in with this new socialist party. Going to court can also stop the money, because I think there's real questions about how they're using these entities almost as campaign operations.
Well, that is a legal issue. Are they violating the campaign laws? I don't know yet, but that is an issue.
That could be lawsuit too.
Could be, but that's a valid concern.
Yeah, and we have to look at all these things. And I just think that what we are going to do here, and we're really appreciative to be partnering with Brooke Rollins and the people, America First Policy, because we really, at ACU and CPAC, we just want to look at all the tactics that we use to push back. Because I would say, if you look at the last 50 years, yes, we've had successes, but we've had a lot of failures. And what we can't do is keep pulling the same club out of the bag and expecting a different result. We have to try new things. And that's why we're really appreciative for your brainchild, which was to go to the president and say, hey, we ought to do this. And I think it's a revolutionary step. I can't recall the last time the conservatives actually used one of their plays for our side. It is a real lawsuit. I want you all to know that. I'm not a lawyer, but John walked me through it. His team walked me through it. We have really good lawyers on the team here, and they all felt the same way. They're like, this is real. You can't predict what a court or a judge is going to do, but I can predict this, which is we're going to keep at this. And I guess the final question I would have for you, which is, this doesn't have anything to do with breaking up big tech. No. This just has to do with having them stop being able to act as a censor and to push this one political point of view. But also, I think you have this question of should they be broken up? And you've had this question about should big entities be broken up. Do you have a point of view on that? Because you could break them up and then you have a bunch of medium-sized entities that are doing the same thing. I'd rather stop the bad tactics and not worry so much about how big they are. Am I thinking about that right?
Yeah, but how do you do that? I don't know. I know that censorship has been left up to the Supreme Court for over 200 years. That's where it should be. They've set rules, things. It's not a couple guys out in California. It's not, a computer. Computer is doing it now, a lot of it
algorithms,
now.
Right.
Yeah. So we have to, like I said before, bring this into the 21st century because it's not there.
Yeah. Well, I think the one thing we want to do is thank you for having the guts and the dedication to step up and do this. We obviously want to thank President Trump for being the lead in this class action lawsuit. We're very proud to be along for the ride, and we're going to push this very hard. But I think the one thing that's really hard for us as we go through I don't think I send a tweet or make a Facebook post unless it's just a picture of my daughters.
Sometimes I feel like you want to be suspended, Matthew, because you always get to the edge,
But to get the flag, and today I was posting on Facebook a cartoon. It was funny. It was a funny cartoon.
I didn't see it, John. I don't know
about Chinese
what he did.
corona, and I put it on Facebook, and I got the little prompt. You should be awfully careful before you post this because you don't want to spread misinformation.
Yeah.
I don't know if you took throughout the whole period of time by which they've told us you must wear a mask, you shouldn't wear a mask indoors, outdoors, this age, that age. If you get inoculated, you don't have to wear a mask. How would you know what was false or true? That's the other part here. It would seem like if you're representing all of us in court, you could make a Tony Fauci or a Facebook censor look pretty foolish.
We don't know. Nobody knows. This virus came and nobody knows what to do, and they all admit that. We're trying to figure out what to do, not you do this, you don't do this. We don't know.
Right.
So when you don't know, that's not a really good time for censorship. It's probably a really good time for the First Amendment to flourish.
That's what we should be protecting day in and day out. But we want to thank you, John Cole, for joining us. And you're going to keep us updated on this lawsuit, correct?
Yes.
Okay, great. Well, we enjoy having you on, and we'll be right back. Matt, I thought that was a very informative interview with John Cole. We've had a chance to spend time with him and really learning a lot about what's at stake right now with our First Amendment rights.
Yeah, I think the thing is when it comes to these platforms, we're all frustrated. And I've said a lot of times on television, we should have all of our options on the table.
Right.
It's almost like that's what you would say if you were in a conflict with another nation. It's like you don't know what to do, so you just say, we're going to consider everything. But as you start to dig in on all this, we have all these bills coming out with Congressman Buck and the Democrats, these bipartisan bills that have one approach. We have Jim Jordan and others that are a little critical of that, and they have a different approach. What I like about the lawsuit is it takes us right on the path to get to the Supreme Court, which is the proper place to say, hey, here's how we interpret the First Amendment within this modern context of having these behemoth companies that now are controlling almost everything in our lives. I almost feel like if Facebook came out tomorrow and said the schools should be shut, that they would be shut.
Oh, no question. I think that they're the big tech oligarchs, and I think it's the power of the people to step up, speak up, and make sure that their voices are being heard in this process.
I will say one thing, which I didn't say to John, but I think it's important for us all to know, and I won't name names, But we do get calls within these companies. I got a call from someone last night at a big company. Actually, it wasn't a call. It was on one of these secure message things.
Oh, boy.
I'm going to sign up to a lot more of these. I'm getting some really good information on these things. But they are almost like hostages in these companies.
Yeah.
They tell us things like, hit them harder, because what they're doing is so un-American. So, there's a lot of people that work at these big tech companies that agree with us, and they know what they're doing is wrong. They're just powerless to do anything. They're actually rooting for John's lawsuit.
Right.
Because they would like the company to go back to being a place where you can put up pictures of your grandkids and figure out what your favorite news service might have said the night before. That's what it was intended to do.
Right.
Now they have a stranglehold on what we're allowed to say, a chokehold, and what we're allowed to say or not say, do or not do.
Well, one thing here at American Conservative Union and at CPAC, we are not going to stop fighting. We're going to keep talking about these woke corporations. We're going to keep fighting for our First Amendment rights and ensuring that you have a voice in this process as we know things are getting tough here in this country.
Yeah, they're getting tough. And the other thing is, pray for America. America is the source of light and freedom and liberty for the whole globe. And if America continues down this path, it's going to be dark for everybody who loves freedom on the globe. So we can still do it. We're optimistic. We'll get it done.
Yes, we are. Well, thank you so much for joining us on America Uncanceled. Remember to follow our show. Tell your friends about this great show. It's really getting bigger and bigger every week, and we couldn't do this without you. We appreciate your love and support and prayers. And follow us at CPAC, at M. Schlapp, and at Mercedes Schlapp. I promise you, Matt's social media is just so much fun to follow that, it's too much. It's just too much. I'm surprised you haven't gotten suspended yet. So thanks again for joining us, and good night.